It's gonna be fresh.
I am so excited to have my friend Cordell Carter. Cordell, he is the founder of the Project of Belonging at the Aspen Institute. Thank you for being with me, Cordell.
Thank you, Joshua. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you. And the reason why I was like, I gotta have Cordell on was because of the work that you're doing in belonging, right? We came through, I feel like 2 very strong years. It was very focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. And when you talk about belonging, they think the two are the same. But from being around you and learning and realizing they're actually different.
Absolutely. You know, my critique of diversity, equity, inclusion is that it's a good strategy, but untethered to a grand vision.
Okay.
And so if you go through the history of what we know to be DE&I, it started as a procurement issue. Like the Nixon wanted to know the composition of the contractors that were servicing the federal government. You know, the federal government is 1/5 to 1/4 of the economy in terms of they're the number one purchaser of goods and services in the United States. So everybody's biggest customer is the government. Trust me, okay? Especially if you're in the Fortune 500. And so, you know, if you're the leading procurer, you can make de facto policy. You don't need a law. You just say, okay, well, whoever scores between 99 and 100 on this RFP is likely to win. And 3 of those points is you have to give me a census of who works for you.
Yeah.
It becomes an industry standard. So much so that you want to demonstrate how far advanced you are on these issues and your other colleagues. This is how our D&I program started. Okay, it's not corporate wokeness. It's about making money, ladies and gentlemen. All right. But the problem is that it took a life of its own.
Yeah.
Right. It began to become its own industry, and with very little barriers. Very low standards, in my opinion. There's a lot of people claiming, especially at the George Floyd was killed, a lot of people claiming to be D&I specialists that haven't picked up one book. Okay?
Yep.
They can spell it.
Every
That's
black
about
person
it.
became an expert.
Well, some of us were forced to be.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
Because many of these companies, the weekend that George, remember he was killed on Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, he was.
And they're looking at their corporate websites like, I don't have any people of color reporting directly to the CEO.
Yeah.
This is a problem. I don't have any people of color on my board. This is a problem. So a lot of chief marketing officers and mid-level HR officers became chief diversity, equity, inclusion officers overnight. In fact, I did a documentary on this called The Road Trip to Belonging in 2021. And I was talking to the former global head of diversity for Walmart. And his name is Ben Hassan. And we're talking, and he says, Cordell, 75% of my peers at this level, the C-suite for diversity, equity, inclusion, got their job after George Floyd was killed. That was a year after he had been killed, by the way. We were having this conversation. So you can imagine, what happens when you do something that serious, that fast, is that you have people without budget, without plan, without team. That is bound to fail, okay?
Yeah.
Bound to fail. But the difference between diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is the end result we're trying to get. That's the grand vision. So imagine you're the CEO, and you're saying, okay, Acme Corporation will be a place where everyone belongs and has opportunities to thrive. That's what belonging looks like for us.
Yeah.
And then you look to your chief HR leader and says, make that happen, please. All of your metrics are focused on what I just said, all right? That person then employs a tactic called DE&I. It's a strategy among other inclusion strategies to make that dream of belonging happen for the employees. Because when you say, I want you to thrive, you and I are coming in this organization at different places, maybe different education, different training, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so what's good for you, what's thriving for you may not be what's thriving for me.
Right.
This is why equity is important, right? So you ever seen that image of people peering over the fence?
Over the fence,
And there's a tall one needs no box, a short one needs a big box, and the middle-sized one needs a smaller box.
Yeah.
But they can all see the game. That's what we're trying to do. We want everyone to be able to see the game and enjoy the game in their own way. And so the tactical strategy is DE&I. The vision that is tethered to is belonging. And that's the difference. This is not a replacement of D&I. It's merely a sequencing.
Okay.
D&I is not the end. It's a method to the end. Belonging is the end.
So what would that look like, right? So like all right, we want to get to that place, right? As a company or whatever, to that place of belonging. What does that strategy look like to get there?
It looks like multiple pathways to striving. And so I like to tell folks, the people in this room, we figured out how to win in America, okay?
Yeah.
We know we belong because we're not starving. We have a roof over our head. We have nice cars to drive. Our children go to great schools, right?
Yeah.
We're living the American dream. You don't have to talk to me about belonging. But for the vast majority of people out there, they're really struggling with just surviving. They're not thriving, they're surviving. And so when you're in that survival mode, you feel like you feel like this isn't working for you.
Yeah.
And what I always caution my philanthropic colleagues is like, listen, you can come with every evidence-based solution you want. You can tell me McKinsey did a report, that the University of Washington did a report. It doesn't matter if people don't believe in the idea of America. And the only way you believe in the idea of America is that you feel like you belong to a piece of this dream belongs to you. And the evidence of that is that you are thriving in your own particular way. And so what it looks like for an organization belonging
Yeah.
is that the employees see multiple pathways. They see career pathways. They say, okay, I'm an associate now, but if I do another certification, I can get up to associate 2. And then, if I keep doing it every year, pretty soon I'm a program manager. And the salary is this and that. So you have to do the work inside the organization to create those pathways, and do it in a way that actually drives revenue. It's revenue positive. This isn't charity, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Driving revenue, but people feel bought in because they see the pot of gold, if you will, at the end of these various rainbows. The problem is that we just say the work, we don't do the work.
Yeah.
We just talk a good game about belonging and how the American dream is great and works for most people, but we're not showing people how to win. And if you are lower in that totem pole, and if you are a step away from disaster, meaning you miss one paycheck and you're done, you do not feel like you belong, okay? Because you're not thriving. So the more people we can get to thrive, then we can have these different conversations, these esoteric conversations about belonging.
Yeah. So where does the cultural intelligence comes in at, right? Because as you started doing the research, you started learning that a lot of people of color, they're highly contextual individuals, right? When you walk into a room, it's like your posture is saying something. So where does the learning come in to have that to happen, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of soft skill development that has to take place. And I'm a visual learner, so I want to watch people kind of do it first before I can get an image in my head on what it looks like for Cordell to do it. And being a little boy surrounded by older people for a very long time, I grew up in Southern Virginia. My parents were super active in the Pentecostal movement. And so if my parents were in their 20s when I'm an elementary school student, that means most of the people they were engaging with were in their 60s. And so I got to observe people from an early age and then model that behavior because that was the only model I had. My parents were trying to model that behavior. And so I was like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to behave in public. And so that had proved to be very helpful for me as I got older because that was the standard in which I leaned upon. That's why I call myself baby boomer light because I learned from a lot of boomers and silent generation types on how to behave in public, how to walk in a room and say good morning. Like you have to be pleasant if you want people to be pleasant to you, okay? This is, again, this is work. This ain't your home. Right. All right. So you have to behave differently once you leave your door. And so the soft skill development, I think, is super important. You can learn by observation, but you can also learn by actually someone sitting there and explaining it to you, walking you through scenarios. I've done a lot of that for university students, especially in the last decade. We seem to have forgotten how important it is to be pleasant in public. And so that's one piece of it. The other piece that I like to talk to is the other AI, and that's the ancestral intelligence. We have to remember, especially if you're from a diasporic community, from whence you've come. And we are the sum total of some pretty amazing, formidable, persistent people that had to overcome a lot of things just so we can be here. There are 8 million things that have to go right, biologically speaking, for a human to be born anyway. Wow. Right? So when they say life is precious, that's no joke. It literally is precious. Right? And so for you to be here as a result of people that truly suffered in life just because of how they looked or what gender they were born with, like we're from amazing stock. And so lean upon the fact that they've overcome formidable odds that most of us could not even imagine. For us to get here to this present day, you're powered by their overcoming. That's not about grieving. It's about feeling pretty wonderful. Like that's my stock. That's who I'm from. That's in my genetic and my spiritual DNA. I know I can do this because what grandma did.
That's so good. So one of the things I always say, man, I feel so much pressure in some of the rooms they get to be in because I feel that, right? And not even just the people that came before me, but also the people I want to come after me. You know, because you're blazing these trails for the younger people. And so I think there's such a discipleship, this mentorship that has to come together for it to truly, for this change, to change things. It has to be the past, the present, and the future. It all has to be one. Are you seeing that more in our diverse communities?
I am, and one of the things I like to remind people, the United States of America that we know today, that all of us alive have experienced our whole lives, this dynamic, diverse democracy didn't exist until 1966, because that was the first free federal election.
Yeah.
Because of the Voting Rights Act of 65. My grandmother was already a 30-year-old woman with 6 kids in 1966.
Wow.
Had been eligible to vote for 12 years because she was 18 and an American citizen, but she was not allowed to vote. All right? And so in many ways, we are still a very young nation, a young, diverse, democratic republic. And so the pace of human change is not as fast as we would like, but it also, if you look at the American experiment versus some of her national peers, our rate has been quite exceptional.
Yeah.
We've changed rapidly, all things considered. And so what I am finding, perhaps because I'm in my 40s, is this idea of the Sankofa bird, that flies and looks back from whence it come. I'm seeing a greater need for mentorship, but it's a bi-directional mentorship. I'll be frank, some of the words that come out of my 17-year-old daughter's mouth, I have no idea what she's saying. Okay? And I'm like, was that English? Because we do have 2 languages in my house. And I'm like, it didn't sound like French. Was that English? Like, well, Dad. I'm like, well, honey, please explain what I want to understand what you have to say. I also want you to understand why that's inappropriate in the workplace. Okay? I want you to understand about what people will judge you based on what you say and how you present yourself. So be mindful of that. Certainly do not speak that way online, because that lasts forever.
So I got to jump in here.
Yeah, please do.
Because you hear this all the time. Like, I want to be my true, authentic self.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I speak. Why can't I speak in the workplace just like this? This is me. What do you say back to that?
I say, first of all, you ain't home. Secondly, unless you're 28 years old, your brain isn't fully developed. You have no idea what your authentic self is. I am 49 years old. I'm still figuring out who Cordell is. Yeah. So how could you possibly know at 17, 18, 19, 20, 25? How could you possibly know?
Yeah.
Behave yourself in a way that you would want your parents to be proud of. Represent your people, your family, your education, all your stakeholders in an acceptable manner, and you'll be fine. But this notion that I want to be myself, you can be yourself at your own organization. But until you're there, you have to be a better version of yourself, a more acceptable public version of yourself.
Yeah.
It's called adulting. All right? And you can opt out, but it's permanent. Right?
Right. But that's one thing I continue to hear is like, man, like I'm funny. I want to be funny all the time. And like, no. There's a time and place, right?
Absolutely.
The Bible talks about there's seasons.
Absolutely. There's a time and place for everything. And I think social media helps in this. We've conflated private life with public life. And that's why I keep mentioning public life, private life.
Yeah.
Because these are 2 very different things. And I tell people, especially as I work with a larger majority communities, you can be as racist, sexist as you want inside your house. The moment you step on that front porch, you are in public, and you have to behave in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And be like, oh, that's weird. Like, but look, everybody wants to let their hair down in their house. I mean, I let my hair down. I don't start hating people. I doubt that's how most people are.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it in a dramatic form to make a point that you behave differently once you're in public. That's the social compact. If we all live on a river, and the river's flowing south, and I'm north of you, I can't dump anything I want in the river just because I can. Because it's going to have a negative impact on you.
Right.
So does our behavior. We are downstream of everybody. Okay? And my behavior impacts you. It could impact you negatively. Yeah. And I don't want that, because I don't want you to move north of me and do the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Right? So the stuff that grandma and mom taught us on how to behave on the playground, it applies to adulting.
Yeah. Because you're a walking billboard.
Absolutely.
Right? You're a walking representation.
Yeah.
And one thing that I have known, just even through doing a relationship with you, Cordell, you're truly one connection away from changing your entire life.
Absolutely.
I really do believe that
Yeah.
promotion and progress moves at the speed of relationships.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
your life, my life has been honestly a sum total of, guess what? Relationships.
Yeah, brother, I haven't applied for a job in 15 years.
Wow.
It has all been related. I did my 2 series of back-to-back professional fellowships,
Yeah.
and from 2011 to present day, I have not applied for anything.
Wow.
It has been relationships. People like, oh yeah, I've seen you. I've been watching you for 2 years. Would love for you to do this. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They're like, oh, how have you've had such a remarkable career? I'm like, I am completely at the mercy of the relationships. And so if I'm a jerk to one person, it's going to have a very negative effect. And I got some examples of me not being pleasant and costing me. Okay? I mean, on the spot costing me. I lost a presidential appointment for running my mouth off at work.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and trust me, that has never happened again. That happened in 2000, the year 2000. It is now 2024. Psh, ask me my politics at work. I have no idea what you're talking about. What politics? What me? I have no idea what you're talking about. Ask me in my house. Very different answer.
Right.
Right. Very different. I had to learn the hard way the importance of public behavior. I learned the hard way.
And I would say, man, you do an amazing job of connection and not networking. I think those are two different things. I think you provide exact value on the relationship. And I think you're very conscious of who to introduce. I think it's an entire system, right? When you're coming at having a big network of people that you do life with,
Yes.
and someone steps in, you want to make sure you're taking care of the friends that you've been blessed to connect with.
Absolutely. I believe in value for value. And as Napoleon Hill said, the man that does more than was required of him will always get more in return. And I found that to be true. Just these people that you forgot that you've helped and breathed life into, and I have a special place in my heart for professional black men that are having challenging times in their organization. I can smell it from the email. I can tell what's going on without them saying it. And it's a timing issue. It's just a weird thing. It's like a sixth sense I have. And I said, let me love on this brother right now. Let me love on him. And I'll give you a quick example. I was really going through last week. One of those brothers I loved on, got him to a new role. He's doing great now. He says, I just wanted to talk to you. I'm like, you good? He says, no, are you good? Because all you do is help others. Are you good? I wasn't good when I talked to him.
Yeah.
I wasn't good, and I didn't say anything to anybody. But he felt compelled to reach out. I don't know if that happens if I hadn't been doing the work that I do. You know? I'm not saying I did it for that result. I'm saying it was a result of doing that work.
Yeah. Man, that's so cool. I think that's so. Honestly, I think there should be a degree in specializing. In relationships, right, and how to connect.
Especially for communities of color. We are working at a deficit when it comes to relationships just because, the universities that I attended weren't open to people who looked like me until the 70s. So how would I have 3 generations of alum in the family? It's not possible.
Right.
It's literally physically impossible. And so we have to be really thoughtful and comprehensive about relationships. I can't limit my relationships just to black people. Because I need more than that to get to where I'm trying to go.
Yeah.
All right. That's why I say diasporic communities. I'm like, everybody, you're here by force of choice. We in this together. If you rock with me, I rock with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So my best family members are not family by blood. Okay.
Right.
And they don't look like me at all, but they will rock. They will take a bullet for me and I for them.
Yeah.
And that's something you get by just being open.
Yeah.
And open to possibilities and showing love. And when people show it back, like, all right, we rock. If they don't, that's cool. Keep it moving. There's 8 billion other people to show love to.
Absolutely. And I think some of it comes from your background,
Yeah.
your background of faith.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
I mean, Cordell, I can say this because I've seen you work and operate. I feel like you love everyone.
Yeah, I do.
Everyone that comes to your vicinity, you love on, and you're trying to help them.
Yeah, I always tease my dad, and my dad's a minister. He's been preaching for 30 plus years, and I said, well, Dad, I'm a minister, but I like liquor and women, so I can't minister to people like you. It's like, it's a joke. But I've seen my pulpit as the public space.
Yeah.
So mixing the sacred and the secular is my jam. That literally is where I want to live. And that slight crack between the two. And whether it's Belgium or Romania or Kenya or Colombia, that's a pulpit to me because
Yeah.
there's people that need something, and I want to be helpful to solving that need so they can go live this amazing life that I get to enjoy.
If there is one thing as we get close to the end that you can leave the listeners with right now when it comes to relationships, when it comes to belonging, because I think belonging is the thing you need to do just in general, right?
I agree.
You know, like don't just invite them to the dance, invite them to dance with you, right? So if there's one thing that you can do right now, like the step one for the person, like, man, I want to create a culture of belonging, what would it be?
If you are in a corporate setting, set up a book club and literally just grab 12 random people and say, would you mind reading with me? We're gonna go chapter by chapter for however long that book is. So if it's 8 weeks, we're gonna do 8 weeks. And once a week, we're gonna connect. What does this do? It builds a circle of trust because you're being frank with each other, you're laughing with each other. It's in work, but it's not a work setting.
Yeah.
And that kind of that like throwing a stone into a pond, it just ripples. It goes up, and you'll find that, man, we collaborate a little better now. We feel like I know you a little better, and work becomes much more fun. I say work because that's 80% of your life as an adult. I'm convinced that time shouldn't suck.
Yeah,
Okay, that's just an
100%.
awful commentary. It's like, yeah, I go to work every day and it's awful. That's horrible. Who wants to do that? That's something our grandfathers did.
Right.
I've overcome that. Okay. And the personal side, I say, just be open. The best thing, especially kids of color, is to leave the country. I don't care if it's Mexico. I don't care if it's Guatemala or Morocco. Just go experience something else for a week or two and then come back to the U.S. You'll be so appreciative of all this, the bounty that is America. You will come back as an American, and I guarantee you're going to view life a little differently. Because the most transformational thing I ever did as a young person was to get out of the country. It made me appreciate my country more.
Yeah. Awesome. Dude, Cordell, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. This episode would not be possible but for our sponsor, Windows, Doors, and more. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's gonna be fresh.